This conference will now be recorded.
So we have let's get started with shell scripting, and we have been talking about bash shell, right? So we've been going through bash scripting or bash shell scripting. Okay, so bash is one of the shells which is mostly commonly used. And firstly, what exactly a shell is required? A shell is required. A shell is an interpreter between a user and as well as a kernel. Okay, right? We now then we have seen we've gone through I think about three scripts, basic scripts, I guess. Okay, so we have seen how to write the scripts, how to execute it. So how once you write a script and how do you run that script? You can use a script name or script.sh. That is how do you run your script. As a part of it, we have gone through so writing some simple scripts. So regarding so run some commands. Okay, and then once commands are mentioned in your script, and then we have executed the script. And secondly, we have gone through so variables. So variable and holds a value, right? So we can define a variable once and we can use it multiple number of times. That is what we have gone through. And as a part of this variable, we have defined static variables, right? A static variable is nothing but, okay, so a variable value will be assigned within the script. So how do you do that? Variable one and then so value, right? So this is how you define a variable. Variable name plus variable value. Yeah. So variable name and then variable value. Yeah. So so once the variable is defined and I want to call a variable. So if you want to call a variable, you can use with the help of dollar and then variable name, right? And then we have gone through some special characters. Okay. And what are they? Double quotations and then single quotations plus reverse quotations. These are the special characters. So double quotations are used and to print statement as well as single quotations. Whereas double quotation, difference between double and a single quotation is double quotation is also used to call a variable, right? Whereas single quotation is used to print statements as it is to the user. And then so reverse quotations are used to run commands. Right? Let me just so so we've gone through writing these three scripts, right? And the second script was that was the second script. Now there you can have a look at here. So everything is same. Fine. All these statements. So what I'm doing. So first is that is in double quotation, and second is in single quotation. Then we have reverse quotation. Okay. The first two lines print the statements, but the last is that is executing a statement. But the difference between double and then single quotation, what's the difference? Now, so so that's the difference here. So there we have defined three static variables, and these are the variable 1, 2, and 3 static variables and the value. Okay. And there we have, so just look at here, I'm just calling that variable in single double quotation. So now if you do this, what will be printed in the first line? The value of the variable will be printed. Whereas in the second line, so the line as it is, it will be printed. And third is, so that is regarding, so user add, right? You want to execute it, let's say, there it is. Fine. That is my script. That is our script. Right? The first line is so variable one, yes, that is printed. What is the value of variable one? Capital. And then variable two, yes, variable two as it is printed because that's in single quotation. And then so next is user add. So what is the user we are adding? We are adding a user called user7, but the user7 is already exist. Okay, anyway, so this is what we have gone through yesterday. Now, today we'll start with, let's say, dynamic variables. Right? Dynamic variables. So what are the dynamic variables? Now, in the previous step, so in this step, right? So I define these variables and the values. So then we have variables as well as values. Okay, but so I want to assign a value to a variable dynamically. What is dynamically means? So at the time of execution, Okay. So for example, let's write a script. So if I go with, let's say, variable, and then something like, let's say, value is some test directory, let's say, and then I want to go with, so echo, and then in reverse quotation, that means command. What is my command is dollar mkdir, then dollar variable one. Okay. So in this example, so what will be created? So a directory will be created. Which directory? Test directory will be created. But always, when you run this script, the same directory will be printed. Okay. Which directory? Test directory will be printed. Which same directory will be printed every time. Okay. Clear. But I want to give an option to the user. So what kind of directory you want to make? So give that option to the user. I want to make a directory called something else. Yes, make that directory. Okay. So that is what is dynamically. Okay. Now I give an option to the user saying that so you can accept user inputs and then take the user inputs and then create those so and so directories or files, whatever it is. Now, so let's see how we do that. How we can read an input from the user. So in most of the cases, you might come across this, let's say, hash, exclamatory, and then $in, and then bash. So what we call this line? So this is what we call shebang line. So in some of the scripts, so some people, some users might prefer executing my writing, starting your shell script something like this. So what we call it, this is what we call like shebang line. Okay, that means what kind of bash you are using. I'm using what kind of shell you're using. So I'm using a bash script, a bash shell. So, and that is kind of representation. We can mention that line, that is optional line anyway. So, but in some of the users, they prefer that, so they want to follow kind of standards. Yes, you can go with that shebang line. So what is a shebang line? So what type of shell you want to use it? So I want to use bash shell. Where is the bash shell is? In bin folder. And that is what is the path is you are. Okay. But that is not so required. So that is just optional. Okay. So is what we call shebang line. Remember that. Okay. Yeah. So go with now. Let's say echo and double quotation. Give a message to the user. So what is the message is? Enter directory name. So you like to create. Okay. Enter the directory name. Okay. Now user is going to enter directory name. And once user enters the directory name, and make sure, so you're going to store that value in a variable. Okay, I'm going to store that value in a variable. So how do you store that? Now that means I'm going to read the user input using read as an attribute, and option is -r. Then, so you want to read it, okay, but whenever you want to read it, so you must store that value in a variable. right? Store that value in a variable. What is the variable name? There comes your variable name. So reading it and as well as storing that value in a variable. So we can give any variable name. So whatever variable name is, let's say something like this, variable one. So whatever the input user enters, that value will be stored in that variable. Okay. And then next. Now, so there I'm going to run a command mkdir echo, and then let's say reverse quotations, right? So because it is a command, mkdir, right? So dollar and then variable name. Okay. So now save it. So what is our script? Script 4, right? Script 4 dot. There is our script. Now, so it is prompting the user to enter directory name you want to put. I want to go with, let's say, test directory 1. Okay. Now, is it created? Now, there is test directory 1 is created. But I want to give a message to the user. See here, I don't see anything else here, right? So user enters it, and once user enters, now it is now next we have that is the next line. But I want to display a message to the user. What the message is? So you have created so and so directory. I want to give it that kind of message to the user. Yeah. So how do you do that? Now open that script. Open it. So after the directory is created, now display a message to the user. Echo, and let's say, so go with, so congrats. So you have created, let's say, what is the directory he has created. But so I want to take the value of that dynamically, right? Again, variable one. You created so and so directory. One, let's say. Now, so save the script. Now, so we're going to run the same script again. Sh and the script 4.sh. Okay, run the same script. Enter directory name you want to create, and let's say some test directory 2. So congrats, you have created test directory 2, right? And ls, is it created? Yes, it is created. Now, what if I run the same script again, and but give the same directory name? I want to create same directory name. You cannot create directory test directory 1 file exists, right? Right. You see that? So the directory is not created, but I'm displaying a message to the user is created. This is not a proper way of doing it, right? Now, so what I'm going to do, let's modify the script. Okay, so you're going to do a small modification to the script. And what is the modification is, whenever user enters some directory name, okay, that means as a part of reading it, okay, we are reading that input from the user, and then, so I like to go with first, so remove that directory first. I'm going to remove a directory, right? So what is the directory name? Now, let's say it's again, right? So what is the command to remove it? Remove -rf, and then so dollar directory, sorry, variable void. That's a variable name. Now, so and then even the once directory is removed, I want to display a message to the user saying that so and that directory is existing and which is removed. You can display a message to the user. Okay. Now, so but let's say just look at here. I display a message to the user So directory is removed. Directory is removed. I'm displaying that message to the user, okay, in the same line. So instead of writing another line, I'm doing the same things in this. I'm removing the directory and displaying that message the same line. So I can say one more line anyway, right? So directory is removed, and which is so and so directory. And what is the command to remove it? There it is. Now, but look at this. This is something different. I'm using so reverse quotations again within double quotations, right? I'm using quotations within a quotation. So double quotation and then using there we have reverse quotations. Is it possible? Yes, that's possible. Right? That is also possible. So you can use reverse quotations within double quotations, but you cannot use quotations within single quotation because single quotation just the purpose is just to print it. Whereas double quotation also do some actions, run some commands and displaying some variable message, variable values to the user. That is also possible. But it's not possible with single quotation. Okay, let's try this. So run the script and give the existing directory name. So test directory 1, which is already existing. Let's see. Directory is removed. What is the directory name? Test directory. Congrats, you have created that directory again. Yes. So you want to check that long list. So it is just modified. 16 May 5th, 1629. Okay. So it is just being modified. You can see the date as well if you want. So you can see there is a date. 1629. Yes. Okay, that is been created. Okay. So hope you understand the purpose of these quotations. And then, so the main purpose of this script is we are looking into how we can read an input from the user. That is what is the main purpose of this script. Okay. So dynamically how to read input from the user, and that is using read command. So read is the command which is used to read the input from the user. Okay. So let's do one more thing now. So now I'm going to create a template. Now, what do you mean by template? So, for example, I'm a user, okay, and go back to the same script. Now here, let's say instead of directory, I go with, let's say, I'm using touch. What is that? Touch, and then file name. So also just small modification. Enter file name to create, right? And directory is removed, and that is, let's say, remove it. Congrats, you have created. So file, okay, some simple message. Okay. So when you run the script, okay, enter file name to create. Let's say I'm going to enter something like file 1. Okay. File is created, deleted, and then it is created. So where is that file? So just have a look at that file. There is our file. That's our file. Okay. Now, but this is an empty file, isn't it? It's an empty file. So what I like to do, I like to give some message to the user in that file. For example, you are a user, you're creating a file. Now, whenever you create a file, right, and in that file, I want to display some message to the user. Right? What is that message is? So, and when the file was created, for example, I'm a user, I'm creating this file. Okay, and there, user should be able to see that when the file was created, and who is the owner of that file, what kind of permissions does it have, okay, and moreover in which path the file was created. Yeah, so I want to give this kind of I want to create this kind of template for the user. Fine. So how is that possible? Any file is created and this kind of message has to be displayed in that file to the user. Okay. So how is that possible? Now, let's write a script for this. Let's say, so first, I'm given option to the user. Let's say, enter file name to create. Okay, and then so read that input using read, and then store that in a variable. You can go with any variable name. So let's say my variable name is something, variable 1. And so go with now echo. So display message to the user. What kind of message I want to display to the user is, so hello, and we have created file. So, and this kind of message I want to display to the user, dollar, and then so variable 1. Okay, so let's see, does it work or not? Let's do one thing. Let's remove these existing files and the directories as well. Okay, so that we can create new ones. Okay. So run the script 4 file. Okay. Enter file name, let's say file 1. Okay. Now open that file 1. Now there you see that, hello, you have created file successfully. Okay. So that message has been displayed to the user. Yeah. So now instead of saying that, hello, you have created that file, let's say, hello, you have created so dollar variable 1. Okay. So what we are doing, we are just adding this statement to that file using these appending statements. So what is symbols do? These symbols will redirect the statement, or will redirect the text to that variable, to that file. I mean, that what is that variable is nothing but file name. Yes. Okay, and then go with next. Now, so also display message to the user saying that, so this file was created in, so let's go with present working directory in path, in so and so path. Okay, and then again same thing. So what? Let's try that now. So create something like file 1. Okay, and again add that file 1. So this file was created in so and so. Okay, so you have created file 1. That is the previous message, right? So this is your latest message. Okay. Now, so what I like to do, since it's maintaining the same previous message as well, so what we're going to do, I just modify that script. Okay, and I would say always make sure I want to create a new file. So if I want to create a new file, let's say, instead of removing it, 1 second, let's try that. Okay, fine. So I did not remove that file. Instead, I have done something different. So what is that? So I'm sorry. You see that? So I just say, 1 second, let's just remove that and go with that same script. Yeah, it's a script. Right. So instead of using these double quotations, double less than's, I just use single one. The difference between double and single is, so if you go with that, so single one, existing content will be removed. He is going to add a new one. That's it. But if you go with double, and it's going to append same content existing content will be maintained and adding a new content. Okay, fine. So yeah, so you want to see that again. Let's say file 1 and then open that file 1. So there you see. Yeah. So now, so let's add some more things to the script. Okay. Let's say echo, and I just run. Let's say, so this file was created. Then you just run that date command here, date command, and then send it to the file. Okay, and then so for that file we just gave some shebang line, add a shebang line. So let's say bin and then bash. Here, so that's it. Save it, and finally, so let's say file 1. Okay, sorry, the problem was we just have printed that, but so we are not appended that, right? The last line also needs to be appended to that file 1. Okay, we forgot that. Now save it. So file 1. So like to open that file 1. There it is. Fine. Now you can start writing your script whatever you want. So you have created file 1. Okay, and then so it is created in so and so working path, and there is your date and time when the file was created, and then there is your shebang line. That means you can start writing your shell script. Okay. So this is how I'm going to write my script. Right? So here we can write our scripts. Yeah, you want to write some scripts here, you can write some scripts. So that means we are creating kind of a template to the user, right? So this is what you see even in your real time. So some files will be created, but on that file every time you see some kind of a message on the top. So this kind of messages. Okay. And you want to also display some user that is owner of the file, who is the owner, and you want to display all these kind of messages, display those messages in the script. Okay. So we have been looking into how to create a file, how to make directories, variables, right? Now, so let's try it now. So how we can define a variable? We have been defining variables, right? We are defining variables just like variable name and then value. Variable name, value. But what if so I have a variable name and then the value, right? Variable name and then value. Something like this. Okay. So variable name and then value. Now, so how about these variable names? Can I define a variable name? Something like variable -1, or can I define a variable with, let's say, variable star, and then can I define something like variable percentile. So you can give, this is correct syntax. What is syntax is variable underscore 4 and some value. You can give some value. So this is a correct syntax. Okay, you can see while giving a variable names, variable names can contain some special characters. Variables name contain some special characters. So, but whatever special characters it might contain, variable might contain. So variable names can contain special characters only underscore. Now, so minus is a special character, star, percentile, these are all our special characters. So while defining a variable name, and can it have special characters? No, it cannot have special characters except underscore. Right? So that is what we are looking into. So how to define a variable? So variable, so naming standards. Okay, so how we can define variables with some naming standards? Are there any standards if you want to define that variable? Yes. What are they? No. So remember these 3 major points whenever you define variables. Variables cannot contain special characters. Special characters. Except underscore. So that's not possible. If you do it, it's syntax error. Okay. So we'll see what happens if you do it. And second point is, so variables are case sensitive. Variables are case sensitive. Okay. Now, what do you mean by case sensitive? So, for example, let's say I define a variable name, something like that's my variable name. Okay. Variable name. Okay. Now, but what if I define my variable name as? Okay. And then, how do you call a variable? Dollar. So is that dollar and then variable 1. Okay. Fine. Now, is it correct? No, that's not correct. It's wrong. Why? Because my variable is defined with upper cases, but while you're calling it with lower cases. So, and that is what I said, variables are case sensitive. So, and then go with, now this is correct. If you define a variable with upper cases, you also call that with same upper cases. So variables are case sensitive. Okay. Now, the third one. Okay. So, what is that point? Sorry, we'll go to the one more point we have. So remember these 3 points. I did not upload this file set. I'll upload that today. Other point here is there in the document. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, fine. So let's look into that one. The third point is, so variables. So cannot start with numerics. Cannot start with numerics. Now, so look at my variable name is, it's variable 1. Right? But can I define a variable with one variable? So it's not possible, right? So because variables cannot start with one value, right? So it has to start with so variable one. In between, you can contain it can have your variable with numerics, but so definitely it cannot start with numerics. That's not possible. So why is it so? So there is a reason actually. So we'll talk about that. So some variable special characters. So in few minutes. Okay. So, but remember these 3 points while you define a variable. So variables cannot start with numbers. That's first fine. And okay, let's go from this list. Okay. Variables cannot contain special characters except underscore. So that means it is possible something like this. That is possible. Okay. Now, so and variables are case sensitive. Yes, variables are case sensitive. Okay, and then variables cannot start with numbers. Cannot start with numbers, but variables can contain numbers, but cannot start with numbers. Remember that. Okay. So making these 3 things into consideration, let's define some variables. Okay. So let's see what happens if I give some different wrong syntax. So let's define variables first. Variable name, and let's say something like some variables. Okay. Variable name is what are the values to go with. Then give it some values. Yes. Okay, some really fine. Now let's do one thing. Let's go with some numbers. Okay. So far we have been doing with string values, right? Variables also values can be anything. Okay. So yeah. So variable value can be anything. Okay. Now variable 2, some value. So variable 3, something like this. Okay. But so the first variable is that's the first variable, variable 1. And second variable, let's go with underscore. That is also correct. Okay. The first is correct, second is also correct, but look at the third one, I go with some minus. Okay. So, and is it correct? No, that is not correct. Why? Because variables cannot contain special characters except underscore, but it has a special character which is minus. Okay, right? Then, so echo. Sorry, we just define more variables. Okay. Let's go with some more variables. And so you can define any variables. I'm just trying to get these variable names. Okay, try these variables. Fine. Just give these variables. That's a variable name. And then let's say sum. Okay. So variable names can be anything. Okay. That's and next. So you can give one more variable name. Let's try that. And this time I'm defining a variable with all upper cases. Okay. Define all with upper cases. And then so what else you want to try? Okay, let's try that also. Okay. Right. So and there, so just give some value. But look at this variable. The variable contains one uppercase and then other lower cases. Okay, so it has one lowercase, okay, one uppercase, and remaining are lower cases. Okay, that's one more thing. And the previous one is it's all upper cases, right? And whereas the other one was it is all lower cases. Okay, and that is okay. Let's try that. You can give anything anyway. So, and what is so? Let's say now variable values can contain special characters. That means, so what is my variable name is post is my variable name. Okay, that's fine. And but whereas the value, that is a value. A value can be anything. So it can contain also some special characters. Okay, so that is possible. right? So that is how it's possible. You can give some special characters while defining variable, right? So first let's try them, and then we'll back to this, and then we'll just write these other two as well. Okay? Moving on to that now. You want to print them out, you can print it. So first is, let's print variable one. I'm sorry, dollar, and let's print so dollar variable two. Go with echo. So dollar variable, okay, variable underscore two, right? I'm sorry, variable underscore two, and then so what's next? Variable -3. Okay, and then next echo, and so dollar institute, right? So then what's next variable name? So let's say dollar name. So since my variable name is also in upper cases, let's define it also in upper cases. Okay, then so echo, then so dollar, and then trainer, it starts with capital T. Okay, so, and then echo, let's say dollar, and then dollar, and of course that's a variable. Right? So this is how you define your variables. Variables can contain upper cases, of course, that is correct, and can be say case sensitive, but it cannot contain so this kind of variables. Minus is a special character, right? No, that is not possible. Okay, let's try. So display the script. Okay. So what we are printing first, variable one is it's printed. What is printed? 10 is printed. Variable 2, 20 is printed. Okay. And then variable 3, look at that variable 3. Okay. So what is printed? Nothing is printed. Right? So nothing is printed. Okay. And then next is like institute, right? Why capital is not printed? So why is not printed? Any so typing mistakes, any spelling mistakes we have. So there are some. Okay, fine. Why it is not printed? Is it typo? Probably that's a typo. Right? It's not a typo. Okay, capital is not printed, isn't it? Well, this is not printed. Any typing mistakes are done. Better right there. Let's go with some. Okay, maybe. Fine. Let's try that. Change that variable name, nothing else. Yeah, that was a typo, nothing else. Fine. So, and there it is. Yeah. So 10, 20 is printed. So first is variable 1 printed, variable 2 is ready, but variable 3, so it's a random number, fine. So it means it is not correct. And next is institute, yeah, that is correct. And name, what is the name? Okay, so info, and then let's trainer, so that's correct, and then course, right? It's all successfully done. Okay. And so what if? Let me do a small change to the script. Look at that trainer, right? So in the trainer, okay, so I have so capital T, but what if I go with, let's say, small t? Okay, so So that is not printed, right? Because it's a syntax error again. Right? So because variables can be called, okay, but make sure they are case sensitive or they are case sensitive. Okay, so that is one thing you should understand. Okay. Now we have gone through this. Sorry, we gone through this. So they are case sensitive. Yes, we understood that they are case sensitive. That's the second point. So cannot contain special characters. We'll talk about that. Okay, now we have not done this, right? Okay, let's do that as well. Let's do that. Let's define one more variable. So can we, let's see, and can we have variables start with numbers? Let's try that. So 4 variable. Okay, let's try that. And will be success. We'll see. Also, let me change that trainer capital T. Okay. Save it. So that is not correct. You see that? So we have line 3 and line 4. So there are some errors. So it's because you see them. Right. Since we are not following both rules, right? The first rule and then also the last rule. And we have seen the second one just before. Okay. Right. Now let's also try. Can I define a variable? Let's say I'm defining a variable. Okay. So something like, let's say, okay, so we go with it config in the next line. We'll go with IPFS. Yeah, let's try that. So go with, let's say, I'm defining a variable. What is the variable name is? So that's my variable name. Okay, that's a variable name. And what is the value of that variable name? We know this if config command, right? And then if config is a bash command. Now, let's try that. What does it mean? The value of if config, and we are passing on to IPADRS, that's a variable name. So that is also possible. A value, it can be a command output. So it means if config will give IP address of that system, and that output I am passing on as an input to the IP address as a value. So that is also possible. It's not always that we define a variable with some value. No, that's not always is not correct. We can also go with, so command values can be as an input or value for the variable. That is possible. Okay, and then so you like to go with. So hope you know this host name, right? One second, let me just so run that command. So host name is also a command, a batch command. So it gives your system host name. That is my host name. Okay. Now, so back to our script, and here I'm defining another variable with host name. So usually a variable cannot be a command. So variable name cannot be a command name. Okay, but I'm doing it. But so I'm doing it in upper cases. Yes, now it is possible because variables are case sensitive. Even commands are case sensitive. Okay, now so and then what is the value of this variable is just like we have done in the previous line. Let's say host name. Okay, there we have host name. Okay, now just save it here and run the script. Okay, we defined it, but I think we have not called it, right? So I just want to call it as print statements, echo statements. So let's say I'm going to call that variable. What was the variable name? IP ADRS, and also echo, let's say dollar, then host name. Okay, so try that. So till this part we have seen it, right? Till that part. Okay, we have seen that part. Now, so other two variables we have defined, IPADRS. Now, is it printed? Yes, output is printed. Okay, that means, so your variable holds the value of if config command. But how do we do that? How do we represent that? Dollar and then braces, there you give your command name. That is also correct. Okay, and there also you see the host name, there is a host name. Okay, so this is how you define your command, how you define your variables. So look at back those 3 points. So variables cannot contain special characters. So why it cannot contain special characters? Special characters means star, percentile, dollar, exclamatory, all these ones. It cannot contain special characters, right? So why it cannot contain special characters? Because there are some predefined meaning for these special characters. Okay. So just scroll down. Now, so the variables, whenever you define a variable, so don't give variable names with these special characters, star and then hash 1 and 0, whatever it is. So why is it so? Because variables, these values in variables have some special inbuilt meaning. Okay, but what is that meaning and how these variables and these special characters so will work and what is the output of it? So we'll just talk about that in next session on Monday. Okay, so next session on Monday we'll start with the special characters in variable, special variables. We call them actually special variables. Okay, so we'll start with special variables and then we'll go on to more concepts on Monday session. Okay, so thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Hello.